We still got a minute. Y'all already got quiet. Boy, it's dead quiet in here. So we'll go ahead and get started then. Last week, we had the visitation of Abraham.
I think it's 18.
Yeah, last week was 18. Yeah, last week was 18. So this morning we'll be in 19 and 20. But in Genesis 18, we had the visitation of Abraham. And Abraham pleads for Sodom. And that's going to lead us into the destruction of Sodom, which is in chapter 19. I'm going to do things just a bit differently this morning. I really like the pattern of reading a scripture and then seeing what we find in the scripture and talking through it that way. But we're going to do it a bit differently this morning. I'm going to read one verse. That's where we're going to start. And it's verse 29 of chapter 19. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Now, I was reading this verse, I think this week, and I said, and God remembered Abraham. That sounds familiar. I've heard that before. Does it ring a bell with anybody here? And God remembered Noah. Okay, and this is when it happened for me, and I realized, oh, wait a minute. The story of Noah is the story about the destruction of the earth, and we're in a story about the destruction of the plain. And in fact, it says here, the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. So here's what I want to do. I'm gonna give you all a minute because there's so many similarities between this story and the story of the flood. I want you to go through and see how many you can find, and I'm going to get you started. Okay, so at the very beginning of chapter 19, we have the two angels arrive, and so the first thing I'm asking is, are there any angels in the Noah story? And in fact, it starts out with the sons of God. Actually, it says that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days with the sons of God. So, okay, we've got angels in both stories. So I'm going to put a minute on my clock here as soon as I can find my stopwatch. And I just want you to go through this story and see how many things you can find. And at the end of the minute, we'll go through them. So starting now, I want you all to see how many things you can find that are the same between the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and the flood. All right, minute's up. Goes by quick when you're searching for things. So tell me what you got. What did you find?
Both in Genesis 6:16 says, I'm going to put an end to all people, and then Genesis 19:13 says, we're going to destroy this place.
All right. So we've got the destruction of both of these, and he's going to end all of the people that are there. Okay? Good one. What else y'all got?
Verse 3 of 19 says they entered the house. Well, Noah entered the ark of God's command.
It's a good one. I didn't find that one when I was going through. That's a very good one. So he entered the ark. He entered the house. Good one. Yeah, come on. What else you got?
The shutting of the door.
The shutting of the door. I didn't find that one the first time. I did find it maybe the third time I was going through this. And then the door is going to show up. It's like the door in this story. There's something about this door. So the shutting of the door. What else do you all have?
16, at the end, for the Lord was merciful to them. Led them to safety out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them.
All right, so we have some people being saved. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we have some people being saved. A few being saved. A family that's being saved in both stories. All right. Anybody got anything else? There's certainly more. All right. Well, I'll take that as it. Okay, so some other things that are here. We had the sons of God. That means we also need to have the daughters of man. Right? And so we have the daughters of man. Lot's two daughters in both stories. We have flee to the mountains. And the ark is going to rest on the mountains. And it also seems like, why the mountains? God's raining down fire from above. Why do you need to go to the mountains? And we have this phrase, or you will be swept away. That sounds like a flood. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. It sounds like a flood. Doesn't sound like burning sulfur coming down from the sky. So that very much sounds like the flood. I thought I had another one in that section, but I can't find it or think of it right now. But at the end of this story, what happens? Lot's going to get drunk. His daughters are going to go into him. Ringing a bell with the Noah story. At the end of the Noah story, Noah plants a vineyard. He gets drunk. He goes into the tent. Something bad happens. And then he's going to curse Canaan. At the end of the story, his daughters say, there's no man around here for us. We're not going to be able to have any children. So they get their father drunk. They go into the tent. And then they have these two children who are named Moab and Ben-Ami. And they're going to become the Moabites and the Ammonites. Now, if you remember, Noah cursed Canaan. Canaan, I think of as basically everyone that lives to the west of the river. That's the land of Canaan, to the left of the Jordan River. Moab and the Ammonites are going to live to the right. And they're going to show up prominently in this story. So, it's not just that, there's a lot of similarities. It's the same story. And, by the way, not only is it the same story as the flood story, it's the same story as the visitation story. If you were reading it, you would say, oh, wait a minute, the angels show up, man comes over, bows down, says, let's wash your feet, let's get you some food, and then as you keep going, it's the same story. It's the same story as two stories that have happened before. And by the way, it is chock full of chiasms. Chiasm after chiasm, they're stacked together. We're going to have an allusion to another part of the story here at the end. There's so much going on with this. But here's the question. We went through this exercise, and we found all of these things that are similar. You all found lots of things that were similar between these stories. What does that get us? What have we learned by realizing that this story is very similar to the visitation story and the flood story? What has that told us about what God is doing, what God wants from us? And I would say, not much, really. There's not much that's told us. We haven't learned anything yet. But what happens if we start to look at what's different between these two stories? What is different between the destruction of Sodom and the flood? Any things that come to mind to you right away? Fire and water, opposites. And God had said, I'm not going to flood the earth again. And then we had fire as destruction. And boy, that almost sounds like something else that's coming. But Yeah, good one. Yes.
Killed everything.
The what?
He killed everything.
He killed everything in the first story. He's only going to kill certain things in this second story. Now, it does mention the vegetation. Nobody picked up on that. It specifically mentions he killed all the people and all of the vegetation, which sounds like a flood story, right? But he doesn't kill everything. Not even in the plain. What's left? It's very small. By the way, isn't it so small? Isn't it very small? Can't I just go to Zoar? And so there ends up being one town that's spared. This would be in verse 22 and 21 and 22. They're going to spare Zoar. So something gets spared here. Some other people get spared at the behest of Lot. Lot really doesn't want to go to the mountains, by the way. He wants to go. He's stuck in this plain. He wants to live here. So that's different. Not everything is destroyed. It's not the whole earth. It's not even the whole plain. There's going to be some mercy here on some people that live here. What else do we have that's different? One thing I thought about as I was reading through this, we got the sons of God, we've got the daughters of man, but there are three groups there at the beginning of the flood story. And who's missing here? I mentioned them earlier. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and afterwards. The mighty men, the men of renown, the men of old. And we have no Nephilim here. We got the sons of God. We've got the daughters of man. And, well, since we're talking about them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them to be their wives. What's happened in this story? That didn't happen in this story. In fact, it's the opposite that happens in this story. The wicked men, by the way, wicked men. There's one we missed, right? You got their thoughts were wicked all the time, continually. We got the wicked men in Sodom and Gomorrah. The wicked men saw the sons of God and said, we want them. But here, how about the daughters of men? No, we don't want the daughters of men. So that is different. But who's the main character in this chapter? It's Lot. And Lot is trying, okay? I feel for him because he is trying. But he's not a Nephilim. He's not mighty. He's scared. I don't want to go to the mountains. He goes to Zoar. He's scared to be in Zoar. And so he's got to leave there and he's got to go to the mountains. And basically the main duty of the father, of the Av and Beit Av, is you've got to find mates for your children. And he's not even doing that. Right? Ugh. We're missing the Nephilim in this. We got a guy that should be the mighty man in this story. But he's not. And I thought about that, and I mean, you can imagine, you went outside your house, it's nighttime. The whole town has come against you. And, they're like, we want in your house, and he's like, no, and he does this terrible thing. He offers up his daughters, but even that doesn't work. And you think, like, well, what would you do in that situation? I thought about that, and I said, I know what I would have done. I know exactly what I would have done. I would have said, have you forgotten who I am? Have you forgotten who lives over the hill over there? You remember the guy, when you got together with 4 other kings, and then there were 4 kings that came and fought you, and they won, and then the guy over the hill came, and he whooped all of y'all. He said, I don't need anything from you. He's still up there. Touch me. Touch me and see what happens. Don't think you're going to lie to him either. He talks to God. He'll know what happened. But Lot doesn't do that. Maybe he didn't think of that. I don't know. But we're missing the Nephilim in this story. What else do you all see that spark you to see something else here? It really strikes me about this. There's going to be mercy. I said in the last story, I was so psyched about Abraham coming and pleading for mercy. And it doesn't work, right? It doesn't do anything. Now we find out in this story, well, maybe it does. It says God remembered Abraham and he brought Lot out. So maybe Abraham's pleading leads to Lot being saved, but it doesn't lead to anyone in the plains being saved. But something does. What leads to a small town being saved in the plain? Lot, our heel, our weakling, who's saying, I can't leave. I can't go out of this plain. I'll die if I go to the mountains. Can't I go? It's so small. It's so small. Can't I just go over there? And this town ends up being saved. So we have mercy that's playing out here in a way it just blows my mind. I don't know what to gather from that. But it sticks out like a sore thumb. And the way he says it, isn't it so small? Isn't it so tiny? Can't you spare this town? And it gets saved because of Lot, even though Abraham is not able to save anyone else in the whole region.
But Lot's family brought something with them when they left. They steal the wife, and then the two daughters had already been influenced by the lifestyle from the city that was destroyed.
Absolutely. They come out. There's such a parallel with the cursing. Like, that's the one that stands out. But their children go on to be, we'll get there, but you've heard the Ammonites and the Moabites, and you're probably thinking, in case over there thinking, MOAB incoming. So they're going to play into the story, and it's not good. They're going to lead the Israelites away from God, these two groups of people. And this is where they come from. They come from because they have assimilated into this land. Right? They brought that with them. And Lot's not thinking about the next generation. Hasn't even given it a thought. Where am I going to find husbands for my daughter? Now, he did before. He had picked sons-in-laws. There's sons-in-laws down there. But by the way, he goes to them, and they thought he was joking. Someone else laughed in the story before this, didn't they? Sarah laughs. It's incredible how this story is the same as two different stories, two completely different stories. But it is. So they have assimilated. And also, you think about this, Lot's there. Why is Lot there? He was living with Abraham, and they had to split because they were so big, they couldn't stay together. And now we find Lot, he's not out in the fields. He's not shepherding. He's living in a house in the city. And where's all of his stuff? Where are all of his herds? Where are all of his servants? Where are all of his people that he had when he had to split with Abraham? We don't find them. It's gone. He has come and he has assimilated, and he has become like one of these people. And he's going to marry his daughters off to guys that are in the town, guys that won't listen to him, guys that don't believe. And what's going to end up with this is that we're going to get two nations out of this that are going to do evil, and they're going to lead Israel astray. Any other differences you all see in this chapter?
There's nothing like Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt in the other stories.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely different. That one person in the party doesn't make it.
Right.
She looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And I don't know, I'm open to what thoughts you have. Like, I don't know what that means, but it's something that stands out. And even though, Lot is going to, I don't think he becomes evil. He's just not standing up, right? He's not doing what he should be doing. He's not living up to it. Even though we saw Abraham, I said, he's got chutzpah like no one else in the Bible. We've got this contrast between the two. I say he assimilated. He didn't fully assimilate. He's trying to protect these guys. It's just that he's not going far enough. But now his wife, it seems that she had assimilated. She's missing it. She's looking back, I think it's longingly. That, oh no, this way of life is disappearing. All of my friends. Those are your friends? Is this who you're keeping? That's who you've chosen to be your friends? Not a good idea. All right, so God remembers him. Okay, the verse before is also interesting. This is 28. I'll read 27 and 28. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. Now it tells us that God remembered Noah and he saved Lot. God remembered Abraham and he saved Lot. Does Abraham know that Lot has been saved? Let's start reading the next chapter.
The next
Chapter 20. Chapter 20.
Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between, I'm not good with the names,
Kadesh and Shur.
For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said to his wife Sarah, said of his wife Sarah, she is my sister. Then Abimelek, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelek in a dream one night and said to him, you are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman. How far do you want to go?
Read as long as you want, and I'll pick up for the rest.
And Abimelek had not gone near her. So he said, Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, she is my sister? And didn't she also say, he is my brother? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands. Then God said to him in the dream, yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die. Early the next morning, Abimelek summoned all of his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelek called Abraham in and said, What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me in my kingdom? I have done things You have done things to me that should never be done. And Abimelek asked Abraham, what was your reason for doing this?
And Abraham replied, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, this is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelek brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelek said, my land is before you. Live wherever you like. To Sarah he said, I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelek, his wife, and his female slaves so that they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all of the women in Abimelek's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife Sarah. All right, what do y'all see in this chapter?
Just like Egypt. He
It's-
come out with a whole lot of more stuff and
Yeah, definitely parallels to that first story. And you don't have to, like, there's no verse in here that you seem like, oh, now I see it. This is just in your face. This is the same story as pretty much the very first story. Like the first thing that's going to happen to Abraham when we start the story, there's going to be a famine in the land. He's going to go to Egypt because of that. And Pharaoh's going to take his wife. So what else do you all see? God's protection. Okay, this is going to be a theme. This is the main part of this that we want to get into. But let's ease into that. So what else do you all see that's maybe different from that story, or something that stands out to you? All right, and I'm shocked, and maybe I'm just being nice. Maybe I'm not so shocked. Maybe just being nice. Nobody has mentioned Sarah's age. How old is she at this point?
90.
Pushing 90? How old was she in the first story? It was about 20-some years earlier. I think she's like late 60s. I looked at and done all the math. Looked into it. She's like late 60s. And I kind of wonder with the story, like, why is Abimelek taking Sarah? And you could say, well, maybe it's because this powerful guy has moved in. And, like, that's what kings do. If they want to make an alliance, you marry someone from their family. But it specifically says in the Egypt story, and Pharaoh's officials praised Sarah to him. They came back and they're like, man, this girl in Abraham's family, like, whew. And she's, late 60s. And so it's happening again. She's pushing 90. Now, it doesn't say this time that anybody came to Abimelek and they praised her to him, but anyway, you got it. Did anybody see that? Y'all were just too afraid to say it. Okay, whatever. So,
You also get a little more detail about Sarah's family tree there.
yeah, we do get, and we talked a lot about that there's this Iscah, and who's Sarah? Is Sarah Iscah? And it would certainly still play into that if, I can't remember the brother's name that died, Sarah's father. But if he had been a half-brother, that's what this would be implying. Now, what about the stakes this time? Is this
She
one...
didn't have no children either.
Do what?
She didn't have no children, so that would say that she wasn't married.
So you're saying that he said that.
She hadn't had any children yet. I think hadn't been born. So when she said it was her sister, it didn't mean that she was married because she didn't have no children.
Right, but they are married. I mean, he marries her.
But I'm saying that they told him they wasn't married, more or less. But she didn't have any children to verify that she was married.
Okay. She doesn't have any children, so that makes it a lot easier to get by with this.
Right.
She doesn't have any children, but
She must have aged really slow.
she must have aged really slow, and we'll get into this later. But my take on that, because when they go down to Egypt, when the whole family goes down to Egypt, and Jacob finally goes down to Egypt, and he's I don't know, he's well past what a human should live. And you might think that, maybe he just, aged really slowly, or maybe people were living longer in this time. But it's like he comes in, and it's like this spectacle, like you're at a circus, and it's like, come see the dude that's 200 years old. They're all like, whoa! And your father too? And your grandfather? What? Y'all are this old? So it seems like they're following a normal lifespan. I also think it implies that something happens to Sarah when she is able to do this miracle to make the bread out of the 5 gallons of flour. Which leads me into this thing. Haven't the stakes changed at this point? Now, when he went down to Egypt the first time, God had told him, I'm going to make you into a great nation. And he's got his nephew Lot that he thinks this is going to come through. But what does he know now? It's coming from Sarah. It's coming from Sarah, and it's going to happen in the next 3-ish months that she is going to get pregnant. And then he goes and gives her away, immediately? Oh, Abraham! I thought you were getting it, Abraham. What are you doing? What are you doing? All right, and then I want to read these verses again. I want to see if you see this. I'm going to start in 8. Chapter 20, verse 8. Early the next morning, Abimelek summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelek called Abraham in and said, what have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never have been done. And Abimelek asked Abraham, what was your reason for doing this? Did you notice something in that exchange that's a bit weird? Maybe it's a grammatical thing that we've seen before. Abimelek's going to say something to Abraham. And then a second time it's going to say, and Abimelek asked him. What do we learn that means? It means that you're expecting a response. This is a conversation between two people. And if the first person says something, and then the first person says something again, it means that the second person should have answered. And they didn't. And look at what Abimelek says. What have you done? How have I wronged you that you did this? How have you done it? Is he expecting a response from Abraham? Yes! He called him in to get a response. And Abraham says nothing. And this is so weird. Why would Abraham say nothing? And we'll get to that in a minute. But what does this remind you of? What was the last time that we had this grammatical thing and it was important? It was in the blood path covenant. And Abraham said to God, my sovereign Lord, but who will inherit but Eleazar, my servant? And God doesn't answer. And then Abraham comes back and he gets short with God. It's reminding us of this. But now it's on the other side. It's flipped around. Now Abraham's listening to this. But what is God doing? He is protecting Abraham. God made a covenant with Abraham, and he said, when you mess up, I'll take care of it. And you're going to mess up, and I'm going to take care of it. And Abraham has just messed up. Just in, like, that's so blatantly obvious. What are you doing? I can't believe you're doing this, Abraham. The angels just came. It just told you. It's a couple months. And here you are, you've went down. And I think because he doesn't know that Lot has survived. I think is why he's traveled. And he's went down into this desolate place. But Negev means desert. It is the southern desert. And it's also the place where Edom lives. It's basically, if you took Monroe County and it didn't rain there for not Monroe County, McDowell County, and it didn't rain there for 1,000 years and it turned into a desert. That's what the Negev is. It's steep canyons and peaks, like McDowell County, but there's nothing growing. That's where Abraham has went. So anyway, he's messed up. And I think, in my mind, Abimelek is saying this, and Abraham is kind of in shock. And from his response, I think that's what we kind of get. And I wonder if he's in there kind of like in shock, and he's also thinking, what have I done? What have I done? I've really messed up here. God just made this promise to me, and here I am. I've taken the one that the promise is going to come through from Sarah, and I've given her away. What am I doing? And I think he's just thinking this in his mind. And then Abimelek speaks up again. And I wonder if Abraham gets it at that point. Oh, this is exactly what happened before the blood path. And look, God is taking care of me. And then look at what he says. I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place. But, is Abraham right or is he wrong? Is there fear of God in this place? Yes, there is the fear of God in this place. And so, was there any fear of God in Sodom or Gomorrah? Zero fear. No fear of God. But Abraham's wandered off and he has found the fear of God in this place. Abraham is learning something. We're learning something. Yes, there are other people. It's not just Abraham and this family. There are other people that fear God, and Abraham is learning this. It's another thing that's going to be different about this story. God's going to make it a point that, okay, I'm not just going to heal you because you've done the right thing and you gave Sarah back. Go get him to pray for you. If Abraham's going to be a blessing to all nations, go get Abraham to pray for you. And then I will heal. And see, it's through Abraham. Abraham is going to be a blessing. And we're starting to see this partnership. We've used that word, partnership. And there's something else that's different about these stories. In the Noah story, God looks down, he sees Noah, he says, there's my guy that I can use to fix these things. And he comes and he brings him a blueprint, a literal blueprint. This is what I need you to do. I need you to build a boat. This is how long it's going to be. This is how wide it's going to be. This is how tall it's going to be. I need you to build a boat. I need you to go and do this. And then God shuts the door and they're saved. But this story starts when Abraham finds his chutzpah. And he gets between God and the object of God's wrath. And he pleads for Sodom. And he stands up to the Almighty and says, is the judge of all the earth going to do what's right? Abraham is standing up and doing something. But then Abraham falls down. He does the wrong thing. But then God is going to pull him out of this. God's going to go to Abimelek. I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to clean it up. But then Abraham is going to go and he's going to be a blessing to Abimelek. He's starting to be part of this story. God is looking for partners. God is looking for partners with chutzpah to stand up and do something. Not just to wait until he tells us exactly what to do, but to read the story. Why does Abraham do this? And like I said, it's messy. Lot's down there. It's got to be in the back of his mind that he's thinking about Lot. But I think it's because God told him, this is my promise to you. You're going to be a blessing to all people. And God makes it a point in that story. I got to tell Abraham I'm going to destroy Sodom because he's going to be a blessing to all people. But he doesn't tell Abraham to go. He doesn't tell Abraham to plead for Sodom. It's an idea that Abraham gets on his own. He's goaded into it. He's not really goaded into it. God just tells him. We're going to see later, it's going to happen again with Moses. And I think God's going to kind of goad him into it. There's not any goading that happens here. God just tells him, I've heard the outcry from Sodom. I'm going down there to see. He doesn't even say he's going to destroy Sodom. He said, I've heard the outcry from Sodom. I'm going to go down there and see if the outcry is as bad as what it sounds like from heaven. And then Abraham gets up in his face. Abraham knows I got to be a blessing to all people. That's what God said I'm going to be. So this is what I'm going to do. And we see this partnership working. Anything else before we close? All right, got a few minutes.